During the Masters Madrid teaser video, Munchkin and Forsaken said this about the VCT Pacific playstyle.
미친놈들처럼 게임을 하고
It doesn't matter, you know, because we always press W.
At first, this just seems like some general statement for content, but their aggressive playstyle and their attention to detail is really how both teams made deep runs at Masters Madrid. Aggression nowadays is kind of a buzzword thrown around, but we already know that every single top team in the world needs to be aggressive to some extent. So what actually makes the Pacific playstyle unique? How did it get Gen.G within 2 rounds of a championship? And then what caused them to falter in the final moments against Sentinels? Well, we're gonna find out in this video by looking at Gen.G's almost historic run during Masters Madrid and breaking down some of their most important rounds and sequences, which showcase the Pacific playstyle in full effect, good and bad. Let me start with an example that really stuck out for me during Gen.G's match against Loud. At the start of round 19 on Icebox, Gen.G are defending and take control of Long B by using the instant Viper Molly, which buys them time to walk up. Keep in mind that Gen.G have no economy left, and Charon had to buy a judge this round. Icebox is definitely not a judge map, so Gen.G are forcing themselves to play around B long so Charon can provide value. Both players pushed up so far that the dart from Loud doesn't ping either of them. But once Gen.G spots Jet towards A on belt, 2 players start rotating and leave Charon to solo B long. However, he gets spotted jiggle peeking into garage and then falls back. Munchkin comes back to help him and waits for the Sova drone so he can disable it with the KO knife. Now, most teams would end the exchange right here. Gen.G already has a strong tactical advantage. They know that Loud are towards B and already have many players leaning towards that side of the map. But Gen.G are not most teams, and they take the opportunity to immediately push anyway. Sadhak is so surprised that Munchkin is past the Viper wall that he falls asleep when Munchkin peeks, and Charon is perfectly set up to judge players coming out of garage trying to trade. This round perfectly illustrates the Pacific way of playing Valorant, and let me explain why. Finesse recently talked about how the current meta is a bit boring because it's super retake and post-plant focused.
They're all just retakes and post-plant heavy now. I hate that about this meta. It's the only thing I would change in this game is the way the maps are designed.
But Gen.G and Paper X are great counterexamples for this statement, where they don't really care to play that way and simply structure their entire game plan around ensuring they can get good fights no matter the situation. Gen.G forced this fight on Icebox simply because B Garage is the absolute best place on Icebox to use the judge, and from there they just trust in everyone's individual ability to hit the shots needed. This is exactly what the Pacific playstyle is, and let me show you one of my favorite stats from Masters Madrid that perfectly describes what I mean. This is how many rounds that each team at Masters won by pure elimination, which means killing everyone on the enemy team before the spike is planted. I also included rounds won by timeout because that should also count as an elimination victory. Now obviously some teams played more rounds than others, so we have to divide by total rounds that each team won to know how each team preferred to win their rounds. A team like Heretics rarely wins any of their rounds from simply eliminating opponents, which means they're mostly winning rounds after the spike has been planted. Loud and FPX mainly won their rounds this way as well, whereas teams like Carmen Corp, EDG, and Sentinels are a bit more balanced, winning a moderate number of rounds through pure elimination and some after the spike was planted. You probably expected this by now, but Pacific teams topped this list, with Gen.G winning 31.5% of the rounds simply by eliminating enemies, which is already insane. But the funniest part is that the only team higher on this list is Paper X, who win 36% of all the rounds from just killing people. This comes through in some of these insanely aggressive plays that both teams like to run on defense as soon as the barriers drop. Now you should have some idea of what the Pacific playstyle really means. These teams are focused more on finding the best places to fight on the map, the details in how to take the fights, and how to catch enemies in bad spots and timings, rather than how to play around spike objectives like post plants or retakes. Gen.G showcased the Pacific playstyle extremely well during the Madrid Grand Final against Sentinels. During this attack round on Bind, for example, Sentinels have Viper ulted long, but Meteor has already sneaked up Hookah. The rest of Gen.G start to flood out from Hookah, but instead of worrying about the Sentinels players controlling long, they all instantly push into Defender spawn and catch both players that are coming to help completely off guard. The actual players on B were never even given a real chance to do anything, while Gen.G has already secured the round. and you might think that TenZ here was being a little bit too aggressive, but top players know that if you get stuck behind the smoke with no elbow control, there's very little hope in retaking B. This is a bigger testament to Gen.G's ability to recognize these aggressive timings so quickly as a team. They're like a hive mind when it comes to fighting these timings together, and we saw the same thing happen multiple times on this map, like in round 3, where Gen.G swarm back site on A and denies Sentinels rotators from taking back control. Again, it's all in the details, because Gen.G knows that coming out of this narrow choke is terrible for Sentinels and gives them a good advantage in fights. So they choose to keep challenging back site and trust their aim to do the rest of the work. John Cutie is so focused on Munchkin, who just killed his teammate Heaven, that Texture is literally out in the open on his screen, and he doesn't realize it. Gen.G were really good at being aggressive backside A and punish Sentinels multiple times with these angles throughout this match. In round 7, they're down 3v4 when they work back onto A and drop the Viper's Pit. Gen.G gets Brim ulted on plant, but flash through their Viper ult, which gives them a real chance back into the round. They do something similar again in round 8, which at this point looks pretty doomed in the 3v5. But Gen.G keep challenging backside over and over just like last time, and are eventually able to find multiple chances to break apart the setup from Sentinels. Now it's just a 2v2, and Gen.G are in a good spot to just plant the spike and play a post plant, which is definitely what most Western teams would do. But instead, Munchkin takes the TP to pull rotates towards B, and this sets up Meteor in that exact same angle we just saw under Heaven. Meteor has an amazing opportunity to steal the round back, but just barely misses his shots. And you can see how meticulous Gen.G are in setting up better angles and fights, and always prioritizing that over simply playing spike objectives. These moments can really add up over the course of an entire series, and make a much bigger difference at this level than you think. Gen.G rely on these micro advantages and can simply win rounds purely off these fundamentals, even when they make the completely incorrect tactical call. Take this pistol round on Ascent for example. Sentinels are on attack and run an awesome strat to fake mid pressure with a cat smoke and a silver dart into arches, as well as a KO knife into A main. Now they have Gen.G worrying about mid and lacking the info that they normally have to make a read. Gen.G sends the late Sova dart into B main, but Sentinels all hide from it, and now Gen.G makes the wrong read off this info as they start to rotate towards A. Lakia is left all alone on site, and this creates a perfect advantage for Sentinels to execute B. So that's exactly what Sentinels do, but Gen.G are disciplined and patiently waiting for two things before they come out to help. The first is the obvious one, which is for all the rotators to group up in Defender's spawn, but the second is for Lakia to actually see that Sentinels have entered the site, which is the cue for his team to retake the area around Switch, which ensures that they have a numbers advantage fighting there. This works perfectly, and now Gen.G are in a very winnable retake situation. Now watch how meticulous they are again, setting up their utility for their retake. They smoke off the right side of Boathouse and then throw KO knife close, which confirms that only one player is on site while two are stuck back site. Now they use their last piece of utility, the Killjoy turret, to actually swing off of. When Meteor swings, he makes sure to go super wide to create space for Munchkin, and Gen.G completely destroy them in this retake. I just want to replay this swing to appreciate how impossible Gen.G made it for Zelsis to prioritize what to even shoot at. The turret is the lowest priority, but appears first. Then a real player is full running across his screen, who is a distraction, but actually the biggest threat appears last and earns the kill. This round was won from Gen.G's pure fundamentals, despite the fact that they were actually outcalled, and shows what the Pacific playstyle is really capable of. But don't get me wrong, even though the Pacific playstyle might not emphasize the macro around spike plants as much as other regions, they still make extremely smart tactical adjustments throughout a match. Aggression is often the answer for Gen.G, but it doesn't always have to be a fast and loud push. Here's a great adjustment that Gen.G made from their first map against Sentinels on Breeze. Take note that Gen.G's comp doesn't have any flank watching utility, which opens up obvious lurk opportunities for Sentinels. Gen.G starts playing this defense side pistol by holding halls pretty passively. They're never able to clear deep into halls and don't get any good information, while Sentinels are going to explicitly run a strat to trick them. The last time that Sentinels played Gen.G, they probably noticed that B-side pressure makes Gen.G rotate pretty fast because, again, they have no Cypher in their comp. So this time, Sassy invests the drone to just pull rotates towards B, while the rest of Sentinels start to work back towards A. This drew attention away and created a perfect timing for Zekken to lurk up halls, which is the main reason that Sentinels won this round. Well, the next time in round 15, Lakia stays put a little longer around his spot in halls. He likes to open the door and play around the stairs angle, which I personally like a lot as well. This round, Sentinels ran the A split through mid and didn't send anyone through halls. This made it very hard for Sentinels to actually clear Lakia around stairs, and it was a major reason why Sentinels failed this execute and Gen.G were able to hold A. Okay, so obviously now Sentinels are thinking, if we're gonna go A, we need halls control to pressure the guy off stairs, but Gen.G are completely on top of this idea. And in the next round, instead of instantly moving towards B when Sentinels make noise, they double push Hall and catch Zekken completely off guard, waiting for another lurk. Gen.G were also able to show a lot of these smart tactical adjustments, and when they paired this with their aggressive timings and ability to fight together so well, this is exactly what got them within 2 rounds of a championship. It's pretty safe to say that if Gen.G won that second map on Bind, which they lost in overtime, Gen.G would have likely become the Masters champions instead of Sentinels. When Gen.G were down 12-10 on Bind, they showed off the full potential of the Pacific playstyle to get back into the game. On round 23, Gen.G get really good info that B-side looks pretty empty using their Sky utility, and also see action towards Showers, which prompts Munchkin to take an advanced position outside of Hookah. Now the rest of Gen.G can lean towards A and prepare for a site hit. However, Sentinels start to rotate back towards B, but Munchkin can actually hear them rotating through Cave and makes a huge IQ call. Instead of committing to his one and done position in the corner, he falls back and calls the information for his team immediately. Time is already running super low for Sentinels, so the most important thing for Gen.G to do is to ensure that everyone is actually playing sites. Sentinels unknowingly execute right into 4 people waiting for them, and somehow Sentinels still almost win this fight, but the time pressure is too much and they can't really take their time clearing Meteor, who clutches up using the time pressure to his advantage. Sentinels lost a good chance to close out the game, but still has one more try. But in the next round, Gen.G swaps Cypher to hold B so they can contest Showers and short A, which they know Sentinels took control of last round. Using the Viper Wall through the teleporter, 2 players walk push Showers. Texture gets caught out, but they were never able to see Lakia sneak into the corner, and Tens gets caught with his knife out. The reason he does this though is because 2 Gen.G players in short A pushed through their own Viper roll and killed 2 Sentinels players, so Tens is not expecting a 4th player towards Showers and wants to take space on A as fast as possible. When Gen.G are playing like this and balancing their team aggression with smart adjustments, they're playing exactly like a championship team. But of course, the caveat in all of this is that it's very hard to do that consistently, especially when your default style relies on forcing fights all the time. Just like I pointed out for Paper Rex in a previous video, relying on the Pacific playstyle too much is always going to be a double-edged sword. There were a ton of moments during this grand final where Gen.G threw very important rounds because they were too aggressive or too avoidant of playing around the spike objectives. Here's a round on Ascent where Gen.G force a fight in mid. They're so adamant on fighting to the extent that they're using Killjoy, who is normally a B-side anchor, as a primary fighter in this exchange. Now, it's no surprise that when Killjoy dies, they lose all control of B, and John Cutie finds a lurk timing to win the round for Sentinels. And if we go back to Bind, the most important map of the series, the irony in all of this is that even though Gen.G relied on the Pacific playstyle to get them to overtime, it's precisely the Pacific playstyle that lost them this game. In the first round of overtime, Sentinels decide to give up A towards short and simply play full retake. 2 players push into Showers and catch Meteor trying to lurk, but in exchange, Gen.G are given all of A to plant the spike. But remember how Gen.G don't actually care about planting the spike and playing post plants? Despite having full control of A and full control of back site, they still do not plant the spike and again try to run a lurk from Munchkin before moving the game into a post plant scenario. All their smokes are faded, and keep in mind these are super long brim smokes, but Gen.G have still not planted the spike. Sentinels do nothing but hold their positions, and Gen.G slow play into their own deaths. Now, this is definitely taking that aversion to post plants way too far, and a perfect example of the Pacific playstyle outplaying itself. But believe it or not, the last round of this map is even more of a perfect example. Sentinels start this last round trying to take some control towards B and send Zekken and Tens towards Hookah. TenZ makes a big mistake here by not waiting for the boom bot, and Munchkin goes crazy, killing 2 players and gaining control of the bomb. Anybody watching this would think that the round is over. However, Gen.G still wants to fight for control of the bomb. In this position with time ticking down, it's smarter to simply give up the bomb and force Sentinels to still have to entry a site with only 3 players alive. Some teams will even just play retake to fully play the 5v3 numbers advantage. But again, Gen.G are not a team who play around spike objectives. John Cutie makes an absolutely bonkers play to TP behind them, despite Gen.G actually having 2 players right there in U-Haul, and this puts Gen.G into complete chaos. The rest of Gen.G TP over, but Sentinels won the fight, and now are only in a 2v3 for the round with full control of A. Now it's Gen.G having to retake A, which is exactly what they wanted to avoid, and it's Sentinels who are abusing those backside angles to steal back the map. If we revisit that graph that I showed you at the start of the video, you can reason that Sentinels are a more well-rounded team who win a good number of rounds through elimination, but also through playing spike objectives. The most well-rounded teams are always the ones who take home the trophy, and in this case, Sentinels were that team. But Gen.G were honestly still quite successful in having a good balance between confident and smart play. They were just not able to get the job done at Madrid. To be honest, Gen.G were the ones who threw the second map on bind, and Sentinels were actually not in this series until one crucial speech from Coach Kaplan when Gen.G were up 2 maps to 1. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at how this speech completely changed Sentinels and is a huge reason they ended up turning the series around. So make sure to subscribe for when that comes out. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.